Good evening, dear Chabura. Going through Kol HaTorah Kol live as we cruise through the entire Torah Shabbat Peh with the Rambam in our lead, one Perek a day, and we're about to begin the second Perek, discussing Hilchas Tefilin and Mezuzah, how they're actually written. And today is also going to be a little bit hands-on. You need a Pashat Tzid to understand it. And in the first Perek, we discussed that there are 10 halachas l'maisha misina, 2 in the way they're written, and that we already discussed, the color of the ink, etc. And now before we move on to the 8 additional halachas l'maisha misina and how the tefillin are prepared and how the knots are done, we're going to discuss the psuchos, stumos, dinim in writing itself. But before that, the Rambam is going to describe how we put it all into the tefillin. Zok the Rambam halacha aleph, keitzad koisin tefillin shel rosh. How would one write the parashas of tefillin shel rosh that we described, the 4 parashas? Koisvin arba parashas al arba klofim. We write 4 parashas on 4 different little klafim, and the goylin kol echad levad. And we roll each klaf, each, so to speak, roll on its own, and it's going to fit into a different compartment of the shel rosh, as I'll show you in a second. The girl kolach levadu manichin oisam be'arba batim, and we put them into 4 different compartments. I want to thank my dear son Moshe for supplying this artifact. Okay, he's preparing for his bar mitzvah, and he wants to know, and he made sure he got it. So if you look closely over here, you'll see there are 4 different parashiyos inside. Yeah, and the etzem, they're separate. Each one is wrapped around with gidin of the behema, or with the vedel, with the tail, here's of the tail, and then 4 different compartments. However, they are united as one by the fact that there's one piece of hide. This is dakis, not gases, and therefore it's very thick. One piece, but it's really supposed to be, the Rambam's going to describe it as one cloth that's going to go between them and cover them all over. So they're all kilu covered by one cloth, but they're really in 4 different compartments. Zog the Rambam, we place these 4 rolled parashas into 4 different compartments. These 4 compartments become kiviyachol one because they're covered with one oir. And v'shal yad koisunaysan arba parashas ba'arba daf maklam v'echad. In shal yad, tefillin shal yad, we write them on 1 strip of cloth, however, on 4 columns. So, and then we roll them up, and they're all in 1 compartment, as we'll see right now. Thank you again to our dear Maishla. This is in his chus. He should be a chas v'shraim and he should be matzliach with his new avodah as a bar mitzvah bacher. And if you look closely, you'll see there is 1 rolled cloth, yeah, and it's written. Let's see if I can take it out. Oh, here we are. Sorry about this. Opa. Oh, got it. Opa. Here we go. As you'll see, all the 4 parashas are written on 1 long cloth, but in 4 different parashas. As you see, there's Kadesh, V'hoya Kiviyacha, then Shema, and V'hoya. Shit of Rashi, as we'll learn onward. That's the order of the parashas. Shema, V'hoya, V'hoya, Shema. And as you see, there's different types of parashas. I just want to show it over here because it's already open. And I want to note the difference between parashas Shema and V'hayim Shemaya. If you look closely, Good. If you look closely, you'll see Shema begins at the beginning of the margin. That's called the parasha psucha. And what that literally means is it starts a new subject in Torah. As they learned Marshal, that's what it indicates. It's starting a new inyan. And Parshas V'hoya starts in middle of the paragraph. It means there's empty space at the margin side. That is called a Parsha Stuma, because the etzem closing off the Parsha before. So this is a Tefilin Shel Yad. These 4 columns are rolled. They're written on one cloth, or they can be written separately and sewed on as one cloth. They're rolled together and put into one basic compartment of. I'm not going to do it right now. And it's put into the one compartment of the Tefilin Shel Yad. Maybe Mechabed again, the Moshe to set it back up. Yeah, Moshe, thank you so much for this. Please. Shkoyach. Oh, Shatnash, you'll be in the frame. Okay, good. Thank you so much. And let's roll weiter. And you have to be very careful when one is writing the. Oh, sorry. Oops, I skipped something. The so when you roll it from the end of the parashiyos back to the beginning. So when a person opens and starts reading, he starts from the beginning of the parashah. So let's say if you started Kaddish and then V'hoya Kiviyacha and then Shema and V'hoya, so you roll it back. So when a person opens it up, he starts reading from Kaddish. Kiming says they're Menachem and they're placed into one compartment. Halacha base. Another thing, a person has to be very careful about parashiyos in the way these paragraphs or parashiyos, these groupings of psukim are written. Shim asas hastuma psucha. If he took a parasha that was meant to be indented, which is stuma, and he made it a psucha, and he made it psucha. So then it's puzzle. He made it at the beginning of the paragraph of puzzle. Or yapsucha, vice versa. If he made a psucha stuma, it was supposed to be psucha from the beginning of a paragraph, and he made it stuma with an indent. Then psal and he passed. As I showed you when I showed you the parashiyos, the first 3 parashiyos are psuchas. So parasha achrona, which is v'hoya im shomaya, stuma. That one is the only one that's indented open, which is called stoma. Now, but there's another thing one has to be very careful, which is mali v'chaser. I'll bring a simple example for mali v'chaser. Sometimes there are letters that you can read it without adding an extra. There's a word that can be read without adding any extra letters. For example, tefilin in Inyan, you don't need 2 yuds. You don't need tefilin. You could have taf, fei, chirik, and then lamed, chirik, and langanon. Tefilin. Or al kapanim, the second yud is definitely not needed. And if you put it a yud also after the fei and after the lamed, it's called a chirik male. But it's called male because it added the letters. Or yadav. Yadav, you could write yud dalet vav, and you could read it yadav. Read it yadai also, but you could read it yadav. And then if the Torah adds another yud, that's a ksiv male. So you have to be careful which words are written mali, which words are written chaser. They have to be aligned and exactly identical to the way the Sifrei Torah that was baduk from Ezra's Sefer, from Moshe Rabbeinu's Sefer Torah that he gave each shevet to copy from. It has to be exact. If he wrote a word that we have the Kabbalah was meant to be without the extra letters, let's say without a vav, and he wrote it with a vav, he wrote it male, apostle. Until he takes out the chayasar. And the other way around as well. If it was meant to have an extra vav and he wrote it as a cholam and he made it chaser, he left it out. Apostle, there's no way to add it. The following are the malis and the chasers. Listen closely as we skim through this very quickly. Hold on tight. Parasha Rishona. In the first parasha, Kaddish li kol bechoir. The word bechoir is mali with a vav. Zachoir is mali with a vav. Bechoizek is chaser without a vav as a cholam. Hoitzi is mali with a vav cholam. Yoitzim meretz mitzrayim that the is without a cholam, a vav cholam. That's just yoitzim. Now yivi acha is mali with a second yud. Moiri is chaser without a vav cholam. V'hayivusi is mali with a shuruk with a vav. Lavoisecha chaser without a vav. Havoida also without a vav. It's chaser. Matzah is chaser. Hashvi'i mali with an extra yud. Matzois, the one afterwards, is in Kaddish Li Kol B'choir is mali with a vav. Se'oir is written without a vav, so it's chaser. Gvulecha is chaser. without a vav. Ba'avur is male with a vav. La'ois is male. L'zikaron is male. Einecha male. Toiras is male. Hoitziacha is chaser yud, so it's chaser. And hachuka is chaser, is lacking the vav. Lemoy ada with a vav for the cholam is male. Now parsha shniya halacha hey. Parsha shniya which is v'hayuki v'yacha. So yiviacha is chaser yud. V'lavaisecha is chaser vav as a cholam. Chamoir is also chaser. Bechoir is mali. There's a vav. Bechoizek is chaser. Hoitziano is mali. Yarig is chaser. Bechoir mali. Mi bechoir is chaser. Without the vav. Ve'ad bechoir is mali. Zoiveach is chaser vav. Bechol bechoir banecha is mali with a vav. Le'ois is with a vav. Yadcha is written with an additional hey instead of yudal langachaf. Ola toitafos is written chaser vav. The second toitafos. Second vav after the pei is missing. Vav tinyana, the latter vav. Einecha is mali with two yuds. Bechoizik is lacking the vav. Is chaser. Hoitziano is mali. Now, halacha vav, the parsha shlishis, which is shema, is ayin shel shema gedoyla. The ayin, first of all, is big. Dalid shel echad gedoyla. It's a stretch. The dalid, it's big, as I would show you in the parsha still out. You put it in this guy inside. Okay, good. Chaser. So moidecha is chaser without a vav. Levanecha is mali with a yud. Bebeisecha is below yud shnia without the second yud. Uvikumecha is mali. Laois is mali. Yodecha is chaser. Letoitafos is missing both vavs in the third parsha. It's chaser. Einecha is mali with two yuds. Mezuzois is missing the first vav. Chaser vav of Rishona, and Beisecha without the Yud Shnia, Ubisharecha is Mali. Now, Parsha Revi is the fourth Parsha, which is Vayim Shemoya. So the word Shemoya is Chaser, doesn't have a Vav for the Cholam. Mitzvoisai is with a Vav, only with one Vav. Yoire is one Vav. Male, that's why it's, Yoire is Male. Omalkoish is Male. Vesiroishcha doesn't have a Vav for the Cholam, so it's Chaser Vav. Ishtachavisem is Male, it has a Yud. Yivula. Male, it has a vav for the shuruk. Hatoiva is lacking a vav for the cholam, so it's chaser. Noisen is chaser. Oisam is chaser. Laois is male. Letoitafos is missing the second vav. Einechem is male. Oisam is chaser without a vav cholam. Bebeisecha is bebeisecha with only the first yud without the second yud shnia. Ufkomecha is male with a vav. Mezuzah is male, has both vavs. Beisecha yud shnia. Uvisharecha is male. Lavoseichem is chaser vav. Now, first of all, I want to show you two details. Thank you so much for bringing it back. The first din that we learned, you have to roll from the end to the beginning, and that's exactly what's going on. If you notice, it's going back, and it's going to start from the parsha of Kadesh. So it's rolled from the end to the beginning, as we described earlier. And I just want to show you the two letters that are meant to be written different, and that is in Shema. Is it so good in this one? I wouldn't say. But the ayin, if you zoom in, you'll see the ayin of the word Shema, the classic Sephardi ksav. The ayin is meant to be bigger. Mahodidik ones, you mamish see a big ayin. And dalid is big. They both together write aid. This is aidus, when a person wears tefillin and tefillin on his head and tzitzis, that we stand aidus to Matan Torah. Okay. Now rolling it back from Sim last chala. Now we're going to move on to another detail called tagin. Tagin are like crowns. And you'll see that there are specific letters that they accept a crown. I'll ask from Rabbi Levi to zoom in. And the letters Shatnes Getz, Shin Ayin, Tes, Nun, Zayin, and Gimel, and Langet Tzadik, all these letters accept a crown. Shatnes Getz. Tzadik, sorry. And if you look closely, you'll see they have like a little crown. The Rambam calls them little Zayinim. See it? We can say it. Peter, Shatnez. Okay. Perfect. Good. Those are called tagin. Let's see it inside. So you have to be very careful with the crowns of those. They're like little zayins that stand, like crowns. Shiesh lam tag, that they have like a little spike. Now he's going to point out which exactly of these 4 parashas have these crowns. Zakta Rambam. Parasha Rishon in the first parasha is but ois achas bilvad. There's only one ois, which is mem stuma shel miyamim. The last shlos mem of the word miyamim. Yesh Allah shalosh zainim has 3 spikes on top. Parasha Shniya yesh lo chamish oisius has 5 oisius in the second parasha. It's the first one is kaddish and the second one is vayigiviachav. Kol achas mem hey. Each one of them is a hey. Again, this is a separate kabbalah chutz from shatnez gets. Val hey, because this is not shatnez gets. Lata shlos mem not the hey. Val kol hey mechamishton arba zainim. Each one has 4 al pikabel. The Elohim hey shel onesana. The hey rishon of hey achroin shel hiksha. The first and last hey of the word hiksha. The hey shel vayaroig, and the final 5th hey is the hey shel yatchu. We said each one of these hays has 4 spikes and 4 crowns. 4 crowns. Parashal shlishis yesh b'chomish oisius. There are 5. Kuf shalu b'kumecha yesh la shalosh zainim has 3 spikes. The kuf shalu kshartam yesh la shalosh zainim also 3. The tes pei of l'teitafos, the middle 3 letters of l'teitafos, tes and pei. Al kolach mishloshton has arba zainim. Now each one has 4. Now we're moving to the 4th parasha. Yesh b'chomish oisius 5 oisius. Pei shel v'asafta. Yeshla Shol Zayin has 3. V'tav Shel Basafta. Yeshla Zayin Achas just 1 spike. V'tes pei tes of l'teitafos have al kolach marba mishloshton arba zayinim. Kol oisisam tuyagos sheishisrei. All in all, they're 7. They're 16. V'im loy asa tagin. If he didn't make these spikes, or he hoisted the gara bahen, or he added or diminished the amount, loy pasal. This doesn't pasal. Now. Halakech tefillin. Now we're talking about who is one allowed to buy tefillin from, and what establishes a seller as someone that's reliable. In which case, you won't even need to check. Halacha yud. Halakech tefillin mishein mumche. If you take a person from a pair of tefillin from somebody that is not known to be scrupulous or not known to be, not known to be. It's not his claim to fame that he sells tefillin, and everybody knows that he's a mumche. He knows how to do this properly. So. How do you go about it? So, tzarich labatkan, you need to check them. What's the way to check them? If you took 100 batim, which includes shalosh and shalyad, so let's say 50 and 50, it doesn't matter. Boidim and shalosh ktzitzis, you have to check 3. And these 3 have to include both types. So, oishtayim shalosh v'achas shalyad, there are 2 shaloshes and 1 shalyad, oishtayim shalyad, achas shalosh. Imitzong kshedim, you check these 3 out of that 100. Imitzong kshedim hulsak za'ish. He is reliable. All of them are kosher. The rest don't need to be checked at all. If he took them as separate peers, not that they were all prepared together. In this case, if I remember correctly, we're choishish that he took them from different soifrim. They're given to him as peers, so they were written by different people. They gave them peers. It's not just like he wrote a whole bunch of tzitzis, and therefore you need to check every single peer, because every cipher has to be checked 3, and from our perspective, they're all from different people. Why? Halacha Yudalef. Now the final halacha for today. Even if you yourself were the one that wrote the tefillin, oy or less, the kacham and amumchi took it from someone that's reliable, or mishara or anyone else, and you took on and you checked it already the way it should have been checked, and you put it back in its hide, which means shall rush to one or that covers the 4 compartments, and shall yad in one big empty house space. You put it back into the bias, what we call you never need to check it again. I feel like unless as long as the bias maintains its so to speak, its beauty, its health. There's no damage to it. There's no reason for you to suspect that anything changed, and they have the chazaka that this was checked and it's proper. Whether a letter was erased, or one of the letters got a hole and it's not mukhav gvil, to the extent that Hillel Zakir Yoimer, he would say, Elu mishalavi ima. This is all these tefillin. This is from my mother's father. That means I didn't check it for years. The Rebbe is makpid, and today it's very common because of the heat. You leave it in the car, and it boils heat. So many things can happen. It also has to do a lot with the climate and the Feuchtigkeit, the humidity levels, that they can have an impact of it swelling and contracting and expanding. And therefore, the Rebbe was makbid and reminded Chassidim to check every Elul. This is one of the ways to check, to inspect our Torah mitzvahs. And I want to thank each and every one of you from the Dir Chabura, of the Dir Chabura, Kol Torah Kula, going through live, one Perek a day with the Rambam. Thank you for joining us. Yishakayach Reb Levi, Yishakayach Mishtatzfim. And we're looking forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be also hands-on. We're going to need this period film again. Shkoyach. A gute Nacht.